I scaled a brand new info product from zero to $40,943 in just 5 days. And in this video, I'm going to break down the 9-step framework I used to build this business from scratch. As always, the first thing I do when launching a new info product is market research. This was a trading creator. I went through all the other trading creators in this niche. I went through their funnels. I looked at what their content looked like. I looked at how they're marketing to their audience, their headlines, their VSLs. I made a little swipe file so I had all the URLs of the landing pages. After going through all the big creators in the niche, I dropped a market research type form on my creator story. And in this type form, I collected name, email. That way we can email market to these people. We framed it as a wait list. That way people fill it out, they get on this wait list. Then we hit them with email marketing and an Instagram broadcast channel leading up to this launch. After we get their name and email, we collect what their monthly income is, how much they have saved up to invest, what their one big question is, what their pains are, what their desires are. And this way we can, for one, build a better product, and for two, market and sell to them better because we know who the audience is. After 300 people filled out the market research waitlist, then we got enough data for market research. So we just sent them to a name and an email. Then they get added to the waitlist with a email sequence as well as an Instagram broadcast channel to provide value, hype up the launch, and just juice them up and get them ready to actually buy. Now that market research is done, it's time to actually build the offer. So for building the offer, we can already see what people want the most. And when crafting your offer, you want to think about what are the main problems that people have, and you just want to eat their complexity. You want to smush it all down, and it's like lifting weight off people's shoulders. So when they start trading, what are the main things that they're struggling with? A lot of them are their mindset's not locked in, they're blowing their own money. And so it's like, what can we do to actually lift that weight off their shoulders? So we're going to build a mindset program. We're going to give them a funded account. That way they're trading with simulated money instead of real money. And what we came up with for the actual offer, it was a $2K price point for high ticket. And of course, another thing that you should do on sales calls when selling high ticket is test out pitching different prices. So for example, my closer, it was like a $2K core offer, but my closer would sometimes pitch a $3K if someone was more financially qualified. And he actually got a $3K PIF when normally it's a $2K offer. And then that way we can just kind of test, see what the average order value is and get the right product market fit. And so what we had in this offer, it was $2K for the high ticket. They get 2 group calls per week, daily live trades with the creator, which is super valuable because they can literally just copy the creator's trades and automatically be profitable because the creator makes money every day. If you just copy the creator's trades, you're gonna make money too. On top of that, they also got a community and a course. And then for our lower ticket option, we had a $397 per year option, as well as a $49 per month option. For that, all they got was a community and daily live trades with the creator. About 20% of our revenue ended up coming from the lower ticket offer, and then 80% came from the higher ticket offer that our sales team was selling. As far as promotion leading up to the launch, my creator's main 2 platforms were Instagram and Discord. So you always want to promote where people are the most active. So we tried email marketing, but we found for his audience, he had a really low open rate. In the past with other creators I've worked with, I've gotten 40% open rates all the way up until like 80 and 90% open rates, depending on like how small the list is, of course. And with this creator in particular, our open rates were very, very low. And so rather than banking on emails for the actual launch, we spent a lot more time putting effort into promoting his free Discord server and his Instagram. He had 7,000 leads in the free Discord server who are trading with him live every day. They're super hot. So what we did is every single day, he would trade live with people. He'd make them a bunch of money. And then at the end of the live trade, he'd be like, hey, I have this big thing coming on this date. And he would get them all hyped up. He would send them to the wait list as well. So we collect their details and we also get them in the Instagram broadcast channel where again, we're just promoting. And the best way to promote is just provide value, talk about the date. That's it. Keep it simple. And you want people to consume as much content from you as possible. And the more free value someone gets from you, and the more money you make them for free, the more they're gonna trust you to buy from you and that you're gonna make them money from your paid thing. After coming up with the offer and promoting leading up to the launch, the next important thing is making the actual VSL. This is super, super important. Your VSL can really make or break your launch. And so we put a ton of effort into this. I hired a copywriter as well. And initially I told my creator to film me a 15-minute video of his entire training arc, how he started, what his high school was like. He had a really, really unique story. So all the highs, all the lows of his his journey. He just made a talking head video, sent it to me. I went through that, took notes of his journey, and then I went through all the other VSLs of people in the niche. I took note on the terminology they used, the pain they dug into, the desires and dream outcome that they sold. And then I came up with the actual angle for my VSL. And so I have 2 documents that I use to craft my VSL. I'll link them down below this video. One of them is a market research creative brief where you just go through and list everything that you got from market research. So this includes their pains, fears, desires, every single thing where you know the prospect better than they know themselves. And then there's a VSL crafting document, which I'll also link that, and I'll probably overlay this on the screen, where you can see everything that we do to prepare for the VSL. And really, market research is the most important thing for writing a VSL. It all just comes down to knowing who you're gonna be helping and who you're gonna be selling to. After that, I came up with the unique angle that we're gonna use for this VSL. On top of that, I use this software called Vturb. I'm not affiliated with them at all. It's an amazing direct response software for hosting your VSL. And what it has is a fake progress bar, which increased retention up to like 10% plus. So people think the video is going to end sooner than it does, and they keep watching, and then the progress bar moves really quickly, and then at the end it slows down, and so it gets people to complete the video, and it also doesn't tell them how long it is, and it makes a moving headline or a moving thumbnail on the video, so when people land, they're more likely to actually click and watch the video. In terms of the funnel, we use a very simple VSL funnel with a slight twist on it, so people land on the VSL page, then under the VSL, it's literally just one testimonial, an application. They go to apply, they fill out a type form. Depending on how much money they have to invest, they're either sent to a book a call page where they book a call for high ticket, or if they have less than $500 to invest, they're sent to a second VSL, which then pitches them on a lower ticket product, which is the $397 for lifetime access or $49 per month. It's a really simple funnel, but it allows you to squeeze the juice out of every single lead, because no matter what, no matter how much money someone has to invest, they're going to be buying something, whether that's a $49 monthly option or a 2 or 3K high ticket package. And throughout this entire funnel, people are getting zapped into the Go High Level pipeline where our dialer can dial them up. So for example, some people, they'll land, they'll fill out the application, they'll be disqualified, but then you can go look at their contact on Go High Level and you'll see, this guy only has $0 to $500 to invest, but he's making over 6K per month. Dialer can dial them up, go through a typical setting conversation, requalify them. Maybe they filled out the type form wrong, or maybe they just don't have money, but they're getting a paycheck soon, and then we can sell them on the actual core offer. Like I said earlier, emails didn't do as well for us, but we still sent a lot of emails just because emails are a great, reliable source of income, because no matter what, you have 1,000 people on your list, you send that email, it reaches 1,000 people. Whereas organic content, you can make a post, you never know how many people are actually going to see it. Could get 1 million views, could only get 100 views. So in terms of email, we got the domain on Squarespace. We warmed it up for a little bit on instantlead.ai, and then we sent 3 emails per week, just providing free value and talking about the launch, telling stories, talking about epiphanies. And so we're actually making the sale and getting the prospect closer to the sale and shifting their paradigm before we've even launched. And that way they're actually primed to buy when they watch the VSL. After they go through the sales process, they hop on call with the closer. They're very, very warm and they're very ready to buy. Another thing you can do to engage an email list is you'll say, hey, I have this free thing that's super valuable. Reply to this email and I'll send it over to you. And then what that does is you get more replies on your email list, and it makes it less likely that your email is going to be landing in spam. In terms of sales team, I had 3 people on the sales team. I had 2 closers and 1 dialer. And this dialer also did a pre-call process. And for the hiring process, I either hit up people in my network or I hit talent placement agencies. For this particular offer, I got everyone strictly through people in my network. And initially, I hired a closer. We ran some mock calls and I ended up firing him before the launch. And I know that if I had only stuck with that closer, we would have made less than a quarter as much money. So your sales team really makes or breaks how well you're going to actually do on the launch. So I really, really recommend that you take a lot of interviews. You really go through this process carefully, making sure you find someone who is humble, humble, who's hardworking, who already has experience, ideally someone who has experience in this particular niche. Now, again, for the hiring process, the number one thing I really look for is like, is this a competent person and do they have previous experience? So in this case, both of these closers had over 2 years of sales experience. They've had hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars of cash collected. One of them had also been on a trading offer in the past, and he scaled that up to 150K a month, which is nothing crazy, but we were still able to replicate the same systems that work for them and bring some of those things over into this offer, which was really cool. Training a team is actually really, really important, and it can really make or break your business. And so you need to actually recruit, hire, onboard, and manage your talent. And so you need to have processes in place for this. When I onboarded reps, I had Notion SOPs breaking everything down with Looms. These are the systems we use. This is the frameworks we use. Here are the offers, the packages. Here's my way to sell it. I want you to sell this way, etc. And just breaking it all down to a T. And then they go through the SOP. They ask you any questions, and then you can kind of build on top of the SOP as questions come up. And it's really important that ramping up to the launch, you're running consistent mocks, you're hopping on calls with the team. In terms of meeting cadence, we hosted 3 meetings a week. We had Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Monday, you hop on, you start with pacing. Okay, what are KPIs? So for the setter, for example, how many outbound dials? What's the pickup rate? How many calls booked? And then for the closers, okay, what was the show rate? What's the close rate? What's the average order value? What's the cash per call? Cash per call is a really important metric. Is like, okay, we book 16 calls. How much money are we gonna make per call, including show rate, including average order value? And that way you can know you have a specific metric. Okay, on average per call in the calendar, we will make $300. So if we book, say 16 calls a day, that's like 5K in cash collected, which for us, it was actually higher. We were doing about 10K every single day for the first couple of days, and then we slowed down a bit to like 8K and then 7K per day. In terms of the actual sales process, it was super, super important that this is dialed into a T, and there's a lot of chemistry. It's like managing an actual sports team, and it's like a system. Everything works together super, super congruently, and it's important that both the closers and the setters, there's a proper handoff. There's a proper handoff from the marketing to the actual sales process. And so the way this worked, after a lead books in, they're hit by auto SMS and email reminders. Just confirmed your meeting, 24-hour reminder, 12-hour reminder, 3-hour reminder, and then 15-minute reminder. Send the link in each of those. Basically drill it into the prospect's head that they have to show up. And another thing that increases show up rate is you want to frame it as an important interview and say, hey, if you miss this interview, you will not get another chance to reschedule. We framed our closers as the head of enrollment. So people hop on, they're like, holy shit, this is an interview with the creator's head of enrollment. So people take it a lot more seriously. They're more likely to show up, and they're more likely to give their full attention on the interview. And so after the prospect books in, the dialer, or what I would have done ideally is had a sales admin fully focus on this process, where the sales admin dials up the lead within 5 minutes of them booking, goes through a little process, requalifies them, sets the frame for the interview, makes them do a virtual handshake so they're verbally committing that they're going to actually show up to this interview. And then after that, they show up to the interview. The closer goes through a typical closing process. You do rapport, discovery, what's your goal? Why is that meaningful to you? What's stopping you from getting there? How is that impacting your life? Why act now? That's a really important thing. Get their commitment. Why not keep trying to do this on your own? Get the tie down before the close. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you in making this happen? Assuming price makes sense, are you ready to move forward today? Get that tie down, get the close. After you close them, after they send the payment link through, you'll get a notification in Slack, hey, this person just closed. Everyone can go celebrate in there. And then of course, the closer will drag them to closed depending on whether they closed paid in full, or if it was a split pay, or if it was a deposit. And then they get onboarded, they get sent onboarding email, and they are given access to everything. One thing I highly recommend is that you have some type of buy now, pay later or financing option where the prospect only has to put a certain amount of money down and they pay it off over a certain amount of months. and then you collect the full payment up front. And so we had a very, very flexible financing option where they could put $150 down. We collect the $2K up front, and then they just pay that off in monthly installments, sometimes with interest, sometimes without, depending on how good their credit score is, or depending on the price of the monthly installments that they select. And there's a delicate dance between the sales admin or the dialer throughout this process and the closer, where after the lead books, obviously the sales admin has the initial call. 5 minutes after they book, they dial them, and then they also SMS them 3 hours before the call and 15 minutes before the call. Hey John, just making sure you're still locked in for this, Also send a voice note. Voice notes work really well because when you send a voice note, the prospect's curious what it actually is, so they're more likely to listen to it. And then of course, they're gonna respond and say, hey, yeah, I'm showing up. And so one thing you can do when the sales admin initially dials up the lead after they book, you want to text them first and say, hey, this is name from XYZ company. Are you free for a 3 to 5 minute chat? And then you triple dial them. And when you do dial them, it'll say maybe name, which increases pickup rate a lot more than if it was just a random number. And so you always want to triple dial them. And if after the lead books, you dial them, you SMS them, you still haven't heard back after a few hours, that's when you can kind of get the vibe like, okay, I'm not sure this person is going to show up. And then you can message that lead and you can say, hey, John, unfortunately with our software, your interview will get canceled unless you respond. And unfortunately, I'll either have to cancel your appointment or reschedule you if you don't respond by XYZ time. And so this increases the odds that the prospect will actually respond. If the prospect still doesn't respond by a certain amount of time, then what the sales admin will do is just say, hey, John, unfortunately, we're going to have to reschedule your appointment. And you'll just reschedule the lead to outside the booking window, which allows more leads to actually book in, and it just frees up more calendar space. And another thing you can do if your show up rate is super low is you can do something called double booking. So typically you only want to do this if your show up rate is like 50% or less, or like around 50%, is each closer, someone can book 2 calls per slot. And so what'll happen is most of the time only one of the calls will show up, or say for example 2 calls show up for one closer and 0 show up for the other, then one closer can send one of those leads over to the other closer. And what this does is it maximizes the time slots available, and it just squeezes way more juice. That way, if show rate cuts in half, that literally cuts the business in half. If you double show rate, you double the business. So this is an amazing strategy to literally double cash collected if that is an issue that you're running into. So this is the high level overview of the process that I used to scale this micro creator. He had about 50,000 followers across platforms, scaled him from literally 0, no business at all, built the business from scratch to about $41,000 in 5 days. Right now I'm currently at capacity, but if you're a creator and you want to work with me, you can go down below this video, DM me, get on my wait list. I appreciate you watching to the end of this video. Follow me on IG, subscribe to the YouTube, and I'll catch you in the next one.